Hello, and welcome to our presentation this evening. This is a pitch for the new play Medea versus Medea, a battle of the playwrights Euripides and Seneca. What we're doing tonight is walking through the acts. The play will open with Act 1, being a history, introducing our characters. Acts 2 and 3 are rising action scenes that compare and contrast their works and their audiences. And finally, the play climaxes with plagiarism. Did Seneca steal from Euripides? We're so glad you're here attending, and we hope you enjoy this walkthrough of the upcoming play, Medea versus Medea. The play begins with Act 1, where we introduce the characters of our play, Euripides and Seneca. Euripides is the first to enter the scene. Euripides is a playwright from Athens, Greece, born in 480 BC. Euripides wrote tragedy, but went against the Greek ideals, often mixing comedy and tragedy. He was not very popular for his time, but still went on to write 92 plays, 18 of which still exist. Then Seneca enters the scene in 4 CE, 410 years after Euripides' death. Seneca is a Roman playwright who wrote in tragedy. 9 plays by Seneca are the only surviving examples of Roman tragedy, but interesting enough, they're all based on Greek myth. Act 1 ends with both of our characters writing plays titled Medea. Euripides wrote his Medea in 431 BC, while Seneca wrote his Medea around 50 CE. This leads to the rising action in Act 2, where the focus is on comparing and contrasting their works. Thus begins Act 2 of Medea versus Medea, where we begin looking at what is similar and what is different between the works of Euripides and Seneca. We will begin with what is similar. Certainly the characters and the plot between the two are the same, but let's take a closer look into the similarities of Medea's response to the death of Creon and his daughter. Both Euripides and Seneca have written Medea with an excitement she cannot hide upon hearing the death of her enemies. Euripides writes the line, "That's excellent news," and similarly Seneca writes, "How small a part of vengeance now thrills me." This prominent trait of Medea's madness in both Euripides and Seneca's Medea is a taste of how similar their works are at times. This leads us to observe what is different between Euripides and Seneca's works, and much more is different than similar. Having looked at Medea's response to the death of Creon and his daughter, let's see how Medea now responds to the further crime of killing her children. Euripides' Medea sees killing her children as a necessity, not an act driven by anger. She admits she prefers to undergo this great unhappiness, provided that Jason gets hurt. It should be noted that Euripides writes the murder off stage, showing that his Medea wishes to hide the act. In contrast, Seneca's Medea lets her anger lead the way in the murder of her children. Seneca's Medea kills her children in full view, even killing her second son in front of Jason. Just as Seneca's Medea took excitement in Creon's death, she also takes joy in killing her children before Jason, whereas Euripides' Medea enjoyed hearing about the death of Creon, but only sees killing her children as a necessity. Although both Medeas want Jason to suffer, it is their intentions and purposes that vastly change the outcome and meaning of the story. And as we have now seen, the plays are similar, however the defining moment for both plays couldn't be more different. Expounding on what was discussed in Act 2, Act 3 delves into Euripides and Seneca's contrasting audiences. This contributes to why Seneca's Medea is a little different. On the surface, Seneca's plays appear to be similar to Greek tragedies. However, his plots are reworkings of Greek tales that cater to his Roman audience. Like the Greeks, Seneca uses a chorus, but his tragedy is quite different. His choruses are not integral to the dramatic action, whereas in Euripides' Medea, the chorus is a driving force in the plot, something Greek audiences looked for. Further, Seneca also emphasizes violent spectacle, showing Medea killing her children directly on stage, a scene that the Greeks would have banished from the stage. We see that violence is a climatic on-stage moment in Seneca's works, where in Euripides' work it is entirely off-stage due to his Greek audience. Thus we see, despite being the same story, the audience influences how these playwrights go about their works. Now we come to the climax of our show. Did Seneca steal and plagiarize Euripides' work? Considering Act 1's history with Seneca writing 400 years later, Act 2 showing that there are more differences than similarities, and Act 3 showing that Seneca was writing to an entirely different audience, we can conclude that this is not plagiarism. This all shows how history builds on itself, and that what came before can influence what happens after. What a twist ending! Who knew two plays could have the same title without it being plagiarism? Well, thank you for coming to our show this evening, and as the curtains close, we hope you enjoyed Medea versus Medea, a battle of the playwrights Euripides and Seneca.